Live from the Dolby Theater at Hollywood and Highland, it's the Oscars. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Jonathan Paula.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the 88th Annual Academy Awards. Unfortunately, we are already running over on time, so let's get right to tonight's final category, Best Picture. And the nominees are Revenge of the Nerds 5, Nerds Making Money, Bridge of Boredom, Generic White People in a Non-Offensive Period Drama, Car Chase the Movie, Saving Private Ryan 2, Lost in Space, Leo vs. the Academy, Bear Attack Edition, Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and Batman and the Hulk Stop Sex Abuse. And the Oscar goes to... This is Movie Night! Hello and welcome to the 6th Annual Movie Night Oscar Special. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. This year, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences nominated 8 movies for Best Picture, and tonight we'll discuss each and every one. Later, I'll share my predictions for which ones I think will win during the 88th Annual Academy Awards that air live this Sunday night on ABC. Now, normally this is where I'd complain about the Academy's choices, but 2015 was such a terrific year for cinema, they couldn't have screwed this up if they had tried. In fact, all 6 films I rated a 10 out of 10 last year are nominated for multiple Oscars, 4 of which for the top award. This is the biggest and most ambitious video I produce every year, so if you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like the video, share it on social media, or pledge a couple dollars to me on Patreon. It really does make a difference. Without further ado, let's begin with my review of The Big Short. Director Adam McKay turns real frustration into a compelling film. Released on December 11, 2015, this $28 million biographical comedy drama earned almost $100 million in profit. Based on the disgusting true events of the financial crisis of the mid-2000s, several high-finance investors take on the big banks of Wall Street by betting against them. The all-star cast features Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, and a dozen others who portray hedge fund managers and bond salesmen, all of whom are based on real people. In a nominated performance, Bale is fantastic as the first person to correctly predict the market collapse. His nuanced delivery and portrayal of someone with Asperger's is perfectly done, quirky and eccentric without ever calling attention to itself. Meanwhile, Carol is great, balancing excitement, incredulity, and anger over the shocking discovery his team makes. Their stories are completely disconnected from one another though, as Bale never shares any screen time with his other top-billed co-stars. They all have their own motivations for trying to short Wall Street, whether it's to say I told you so, for personal gain, or to teach the banks a lesson. Thankfully, all of these threads see excellent payoffs by the end of the film. Angrily commenting on the bank's destructive greed, Carol laments, "They weren't being stupid, they just didn't care." The Oscar-nominated screenplay, based upon the book by Michael Lewis, does a fantastic job of explaining complicated financial structures and concepts into an easy-to-understand package, like an amusingly gratuitous cutaway of Margot Robbie in a bubble bath describing how mortgage bonds work. The mixture of expositional narration from Gosling, coupled with characters breaking the fourth wall, also adds effectiveness to the punchy and vulgar dialogue. Inherently, though, The Big Short is a dramatic film with characters and a story arc, which is where the R-rated movie falls a bit flat. The situations and actors are largely interchangeable, oftentimes feeling more like placeholders to deliver information rather than protagonists in an actual story.
I don't get it. Why are they confessing?
They're not confessing.
They're bragging.
Do people have any idea what they are buying?
I focus on the immigrants, you know? Once they find out they're getting a home, they sign where you tell them to sign. Don't ask questions, don't understand the rates.
Idiots.
Yeah.
And you target immigrants too.
Their credit actually isn't bad enough for him.
The quickly edited 130-minute film is shot largely handheld, as the camera remains constantly in motion, often with multiple layers of foreground and background. It keeps the drab offices and high-rises of lower Manhattan looking more exciting than they really are. As interesting and enjoyable as this film is, it also just made me really angry. As someone who struggled to buy a home soon after this financial crisis, I've seen the aftermath of the bank's systematic fraud firsthand, and what they did was downright deplorable. This film only serves as a reminder that not only did they avoid punishment, but are already back to their old tricks all over again. There's unfortunately no lesson to be learned. The movie exists simply to share how horrible everything was. Still, it's a must-see movie for those unfamiliar with how $5 trillion in American wealth disappeared. The Big Short is a uniquely entertaining look at complex issues and financial greed. Let's see what you had to say about it. An entertaining look at an involved topic, we both agreed this is a cool movie. Now, Bridge of Spies. Interesting true stories don't always translate to entertaining cinema. The 27th feature film from legendary director Steven Spielberg once again reunites him with the equally legendary Tom Hanks for a decidedly unlegendary historical drama. The $40 million production quadrupled its budget after its October 2015 release. The PG-13 rated narrative is based on the real accounts of an American lawyer who was recruited to defend an arrested Soviet spy in court and later to help facilitate his exchange for a captured US pilot. Hanks plays the lawyer and continues to prove why he's one of the best actors in Hollywood. There's an effortless affability to the guy. He's able to create such empathetic characters with real fears and desires. It also helps that he's playing opposite Mark Rylance as the Soviet spy in an Oscar-nominated role. His quiet demeanor that masks his strong defiance makes for a compelling protagonist. When Hanks questions his mood before trial by asking, "Do you never worry?" he sort of smugly replies, "Would it help?" Thematically, this is a tale about moral fortitude and standing up for what you know to be right despite popular opposition. After being overwhelmed by the press following a less than favorable appearance in court, Hanks crushes the discarded light bulbs of nosy photographers as he exits. It's a wonderful, symbolic little moment, but ultimately that's all this picture is. Little moments. They never really amount to anything larger. Even the final prisoner exchange itself is pretty anticlimactic.
Tell me if I am describing this wrong. You have a kid, a university student, someone you know is not a spy, who's no threat to you, and in exchange for this person who is worthless to you, you play an equal part in an exchange between the Russians and the Americans. And this is one transaction between us and the two of you. We're not trying to do two things here, sir. We're just doing one thing, one. It's hard for me to see how the Republic of East German Democrats is being slighted.
You agreed with the Soviets without consulting me. Is this a negotiation or a conspiracy?
For it to be a conspiracy, there would have to be harm to you, sir. There's just benefits here. We're of agreeing interests.
No, you decide they agree.
Spielberg's usual style of reserved editing and careful camera plotting results in an absolutely gorgeous looking picture. I've been to East Berlin in the dead of winter, and it's definitely not the most colorful or picturesque place, but the cinematography, all shot on location, really lets the actors and environment shine. Despite the strength of the cast and crew, this is easily 2015's weakest Best Picture nominee. The film's critical and commercial success can likely be attributed to the more expert skill of those involved, rather than the work itself. Spielberg is the most successful director in history, but if I'm being honest, I haven't truly enjoyed any of his movies in the past decade. They're all brilliantly made, but they just haven't been particularly compelling or exciting. Unfortunately, that trend continues with Bridge of Spies, which drags out an inconsequential story about alliances and treason into a 141-minute movie. It never makes any mistakes, but it never rises above conventional dramatization either. But that's just my opinion. Let's see what you had to say about it. Praising the performances, you thought this was an awesome film. I'm more critical of this one. I only thought it was good. Third up, my review of Brooklyn. A quaint if familiar story. This John Crowley historical period drama premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January of 2015, eventually earning more than 4 times its $11 million budget when it saw a wide release a year later. Based on the novel of the same name, the 111-minute script follows an Irish immigrant to 1950s Brooklyn who must choose between a new romance and her past. Saoirse Ronan carries the lead role with poise, beauty, and innocence. We see the exciting new American landscape of opportunity and freedom through her eyes, and after she falls in love, she does a wonderful job balancing infatuation with reservation. A film as much about relationships as it is about self-discovery is Ronan's progression from a shy and mousy outsider to confident adult that really drives the emotional weight of this film. Paying her experience forward, she advises a new immigrant that you'll feel so homesick you'll want to die, and there's nothing you can do about it apart from endure it. The Irish actress has been turning in great work ever since her breakout performance in Atonement in 2007, but for those unfamiliar with her, this second Oscar nomination should put her on your radar. Opposite her in the predictable tale of star-crossed lovers is Emery Cohen as a quintessential Italian New Yorker, eager to win her affections despite her trepidation.
You're in a good mood, huh?
Yes. Why?
I like how you're being. I don't know the word when you go along with everything.
Amenable.
Yeah? Amenable? Okay. So why you being amenable? Can we go see a movie this week when you're not in night class?
I'll sign up for 2 movies.
Really?
Yes. Even if the first date is a disaster, I'll give it another chance.
Donald Gleason kicks off what was a banner year for him with the difficult responsibility of playing the other guy, a modest prospect for Ronan back in Ireland. His limited role exists only to introduce a small amount of conflict into the otherwise safe narrative, but he remains just charming enough to almost be a problem for our heroine. This sweet romance story has some great situational humor and amusing dialogue in it too, like a great scene where Ronan's roommates help her practice her pasta eating technique. Cleanly framed shots show off the colorful costumes and period-accurate environments, while the editing and pacing are appropriate without distracting. Although it never breaks any new ground, this is a well-made and inoffensive date movie most folks will enjoy on repeated viewings. Brooklyn is a perfectly amenable story that delights, without ever impressing. I thought it was great. Next up, a shortened reproduction of my review for Mad Max Fury Road. A relentless, adrenaline-fueled thrill ride from start to finish. The fourth installment of George Miller's Australian post-apocalyptic action series was released in May of 2015, a full 30 years after Part 3. The $150 million R-rated movie made over $225 million in profit thanks to rave reviews and strong word of mouth. The ruggedly handsome Tom Hardy replaces Mel Gibson in the title role, a resourceful survivor in the post-atomic wasteland of the Australian desert. The actual focus of the graphic story, though, is Charlize Theron as a gritty truck driver who's determined to rescue 5 concubines from an oppressive and greedy dictator by outrunning a horde of aggressive pursuers. This simplistic premise cuts both ways. It's easy to follow, but perhaps a bit undernourished. And when our intrepid team gets stuck without an endgame, they literally just turn around and go back where they started. A realistic resolution given their harsh circumstances, but hardly an interesting one. While the film is particularly light on dialogue, watching the uneasy alliance develop between the muzzled Hardy and grease-painted Theron is definitely intriguing. Lecturing his new driving companion, Tom coldly advises, "Hope is a mistake. If you can't fix what's broken, you'll go insane." Never more than a few minutes behind the protagonist, returning baddie Hugh Keyes Byron supplies the film with ever-present consequences, making it difficult to ever catch your breath. The 2-hour movie rarely slows down, blending flawless practical effects with death-defying stunt work. At the moment of her darkest desperation, we see Charlize collapsing to her knees while shouting at the heavens, in a fantastic shot that frames her athletic silhouette against the quick-moving sands of the desert. Another scene where Hardy swings across the moving battlefield on a long pole as a massive explosion erupts behind him is astonishing. The bright orange hues of these scenes contrast wonderfully with the sharp blue shadows during the night sequences. Rather than a shameless retread, it's obvious this expansive steampunk visualization of a dystopian universe, filmed on location in Namibia, Africa, is one that ruminated in Miller's mind for decades. Mixing deep violin chords with heavy drums that are synchronized to the action, the grungy soundtrack from Junkie XL is a perfect fit for the bloody action on screen. Stripped down and laser focused, this is the best pure action movie in years, and one that raises the bar for all future blockbusters. Its nomination for Best Picture may be surprising, but certainly deserving. This is a triumphant return to form for the 70-year-old director. There's honestly not much to dislike about a reboot that features a flame-throwing guitar. If you're a fan of loud mayhem entangled with conflicted characters, Mad Max Fury Road is a stylized barrage of ridiculous carnage that's beautifully choreographed. Here are some of your reviews. Unanimous praise was given to the action and style, but few thought it needed more substance. You gave this a 9, and I thought it was amazing. Halfway done, let's continue with another reproduced review for The Martian. For the 3rd year in a row, we've been treated to an absolutely excellent space survival movie. Produced on a budget of $108 million and released nationwide on October 2nd, this sci-fi picture made over $500 million in profit. The PG-13 rated film may very well be the best thing director Ridley Scott has ever done. Based on Andy Weir's 2011 novel of the same name, Matt Damon stars as an astronaut who is incorrectly presumed dead and left behind on Mars, forced to survive by himself for over a year until a rescue team can arrive. As expected, Damon is absolutely perfect in the Oscar-nominated lead role, commanding the attention and empathy from the audience, thanks to his optimistic attitude and determination. He declares quietly to himself, "I'm not going to die here."
Luckily, in the history of humanity, nothing bad has ever happened from lighting hydrogen on fire. NASA hates fire because of the whole fire makes everybody die in space thing. So everything they sent us up here with is flame retardant, with the notable exception of Martinez's personal items. I am sorry, Martinez, but if you didn't want me to go through your stuff, you shouldn't have left me for dead on a desolate planet.
Feeling a bit like Robinson Crusoe, watching this astrobotanist literally colonize the Martian soil so he can grow enough food to stay alive is a wonderful thing to see. Despite its lengthy 141-minute runtime, the high-concept story about survival and perseverance remains positively captivating throughout. Especially an unflinching scene when Damon performs surgery on himself to fish shrapnel out of his abdomen. A parallel narrative on Earth dealing with pragmatic NASA politics helps offset the isolation of this story. It's here where the talented supporting cast truly shines. Jessica Chastain, Jeff Daniels, Michael Pena, Kate Mara, Sean Bean, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and even Kristen Wiig all do excellent work. An upbeat montage set to David Bowie's Starman showing their international plan coming together is a real highlight. Speaking of pop music, the movie amusingly incorporates a good deal of in-universe disco into the soundtrack. It's this lighter tone, coupled with Damon's sarcastic wit and humor, that make The Martian such a fun and rewatchable film. But Scott doesn't dumb down the narrative either, showing complex mathematics, hex code-based communication, and plenty of equations on thrust and velocity. This is an idealistic vision of an unspecified future that respects and utilizes hard science, instead of marginalizing it. This technical accuracy also serves as a wonderful advertisement for the continuation of manned spaceflight. Plus, it goes hand in hand with the flawless visuals, which expertly blend CGI, mammoth soundstage sets, and the Jordanian desert to faithfully recreate the surface of Mars. Other sequences in the fastness of space and onboard the Ares rocket are handled just as effortlessly. This is a true high-water mark for modern science fiction, and a completely engaging experience. Crowd-pleasing from start to finish, and easily one of 2015's best, The Martian is a brilliant masterwork, showing man's incredible capacity for survival. Let's check out the YouTube comments now. While you held off on the top score and only gave this a 9, I love this movie. I think it's amazing. Now let's discuss The Revenant. The phrase tour de force only begins to describe this experience. Although it didn't see a wide release until January 8th of 2016, this historical action-adventure qualified for the previous year's award cycle thanks to the sneaky practice of a limited release days before New Year's. The $60 million film by director Alejandro González Iñárritu was nominated for a year-best 12 Oscars, including Best Picture. Loosely based on a true story, when a frontiersman in the 1820s is mauled by a bear, he must fight to stay alive so he can get revenge on those who abandoned him to die. As real-life fur trapper Hugh Glass, Leonardo DiCaprio once again amazes with his dedication to his craft, which he cited as the hardest performance of his career. His character's grueling quest for revenge and survival is likely the role that finally nets him that coveted Oscar. Confessing his desire for payback, he quietly remarks, "I ain't afraid to die anymore. I've done it already." But Tom Hardy's portrayal of the selfish villain shouldn't be overlooked either. His ceaseless disrespect for others makes him a frightening bad guy, and a deserving nominee for Best Supporting Actor. Elsewhere, Donald Gleason, Will Poulter, and Forrest Goodluck are featured in smaller but no less pivotal characters in this epic, yet intimate R-rated story. The lengthy 156-minute feature is commendably and rather impressively shot entirely with natural lighting on location in the harsh and unforgiving landscape of British Columbia during the middle of winter. Iñárritu continues to astound with his beautiful cinematography and extremely long one-ers. I thought it would be hard to top his award-winning work on Birdman, but there are huge swaths of The Revenant photographed in a single take, or at least they're carefully designed and edited to resemble one. The obvious highlight is DiCaprio's central fight with a giant grizzly bear. This vicious attack is painful to watch yet impossible to look away from, and it's all done in a single, minutes-long fluid camera move. This extremely graphic scene is one of the most powerful ever created for a motion picture, and will stand the test of time as a monumental achievement. While we're on the subject, from a technical standpoint, this is a flawless motion picture. And given the difficulty of the shoot, from the contention amongst the crew to massive budget overruns, I'm amazed they finished production in just 1 year. The plot may be somewhat simplistic and the pacing drawn out longer than necessary, but this is a rewarding adventure about perseverance and conquering the impossible. Not for the impatient or faint of heart, The Revenant is an intense wilderness revenge epic that left me breathless. And here's what you had to say about it. Citing the characters and length as the only issues, you still thought this was an awesome film. Personally, I think it does deserve my highest score. 2 more to go, here's my review of Room. A brave story about truth and determination. This succinctly titled drama from director Lenny Abrahamson saw limited release in the fall of 2015 and earned a modest cum of $19 million, atop its $13 million budget. Kidnapped and held captive for years, a young woman and her son devise an escape from the small enclosed space they're trapped in. Brie Larson is powerful and unflinching in the lead role, a mother so determined to save her family's future she's willing to risk everything for it. She's miserable and depressed but maintains hope and positivity for her son. The 25-year-old actress has been doing solid work for a decade, but this Oscar-nominated performance should be a breakout success for her. Jacob Tremblay, meanwhile, is phenomenal as her little boy, who's never known life outside of Room. His stunted growth and lack of exposure to the real world leaves him with a broken dialect, often dropping articles from proper nouns, including his titular home. We see this cruel and confined environment through his eyes, an innocent 5-year-old. When he first refers to TV shows as different planets, it's an amusing concept, until the reality sets in. This child literally believes the images he sees on TV exist on other planets. He has no experience with oceans, grass, or trees.
He would have stolen our food.
Mouse can have my food. I'm not hungry.
He would have brought in germs, bit us in our sleep.
Mouse is my friend. And you splattered him dead.
No, I didn't. He's hunky-dory.
Are you tricking me?
No, Jack, I swear, he is safe at home in the backyard with his ma.
What backyard?
His confusion morphs to anger when he does learn the truth, and later to confidence when he narrates, "When I was small, I only knew small things, but now I'm 5, I know everything." This heart-wrenching R-rated narrative eventually blossoms into an inspirational struggle for hope and freedom, and is impossible to look away from. I won't dare spoil where this picture goes next, but it unravels organically in a very believable and fascinating way. Although seldom used, Stephen Rennick's score is most effective during the quieter moments, when only the repetition of a piano can be heard. Not to be confused with Tommy Wiseau's cinematic abomination of the same name, this is one of the most effective dramas in recent memory. The empathy you feel for these characters by the end of the 2-hour runtime is immense and intimate. Based off Emma Donoghue's novel of the same name, this is a unique story, not derivative of existing trends or part of a franchise, but truly original cinema more people need to be watching. Unafraid to examine the painful psychological effects of life in isolation, Room is a captivating drama with emotionally striking performances. And here's what you had to say about it. Usually I'm the one who's more critical of movies, especially the slower character pieces like this one. But once again, I'm rating this 1 point higher. I think it's an amazing movie. Last but not least, Spotlight. Who knew the complexities of investigative journalism could be so emotional? This Tom McCarthy Best Picture nominee almost tripled its $20 million budget after its release in November of 2015. An accurate account of true events, the R-rated plot follows the Boston Globe's Spotlight team as they uncover and investigate the massive child molestation scandal within the Catholic Church during the early 2000s. There are many ways to handle a sensitive plot like this, but framing it from the perspective of the reporters is certainly an interesting decision. While it removes some of the personal elements, it does allow the narrative to remain completely factual and objective. If you're fascinated by the newspaper business or reporting, this is one movie that remains compelling throughout its 129-minute runtime. The biographical crime drama also shares many favorable similarities to All the President's Men from 1976, which McCarthy cites as an influence. The huge ensemble cast features excellent performances from Mark Ruffalo and Rachel McAdams in nominated roles, alongside Michael Keaton, John Slattery, Stanley Tucci, Brian Darcy James, Liev Schreiber, and Billy Crudup. Much of the work is quieter, more dignified chatter behind closed doors, but in the few moments where these reporters let their emotions get the best of them, make for fantastic cinema. And as with any group of intelligent people, it's great just watching them work out solutions and theories during their many conversations.
My estimates suggest 6% act out sexually with minors.
6% of what?
6% of all priests.
How many priests do we have in Boston?
About 1,500. 1% is 15. 6% is 90.
Wait. 90 priests?
Is that possible?
From a metric standpoint, yes. That would certainly be in line with my findings.
Ruffalo is especially convincing as one of the lead journalists on the titular team, who is shocked and horrified at the evidence they keep uncovering. A majority of Spotlight is just this core group of players looking through files and arguing in windowless rooms, but the subject matter is so important and their delivery so convincing, most audiences will be fixated throughout. Like when Tucci coldly reminds Ruffalo that, if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to abuse them. Some of the most powerful moments actually come from the wide array of minor characters who recount their terrible experiences as victims of sexual abuse. The motivational and driving score from Howard Shore helps keep things dramatic even when we're just looking at someone entering data in Excel. Not only did I grow up just outside of Boston, but my wife used to work at the Globe, so this story definitely hit close to home, but this film does a respectful job with the delicate material. After the movie reaches its natural conclusion, some title cards provide updates on the real-life story, including a list of places where other major abuse scandals have been uncovered. This is perhaps the most troubling part of the entire film, as page after page flash on screen, each item representing something too horrific to even comprehend. A powerful and important film all people need to watch, Spotlight is a sobering look at life-changing journalism. And here's what you thought about it. From the performances to the screenplay, we both thought this was an awesome film. Now that you've heard my reviews on each film, here's how they all rank against each other when I expand my ratings out to a 100-point scale. In the 6 years I've been reviewing Best Picture nominees, this is far and away the strongest group of films. So while I'd be happy with almost any of them winning, let's make some actual predictions for the top 4 categories. We'll start off with Best Actress. My favorite has to be Brie Larson, who took on such a heavy and emotional story with poise and honesty. Her fantastic performance should really open up a lot of doors for her career, especially since she's also my pick to win. After years of coming up short, this should finally be Leonardo's year. His portrayal of Hugh Glass will not only be a validating victory for him, and the curiously large portion of the internet rooting along with him, but also a continuation of the Academy's predictable habit of giving this award to actors playing non-fictional characters. I'm disappointed that Ridley Scott wasn't nominated for The Martian, but I'm still a huge fan of both George Miller and Alejandro G. Iñárritu. They did incredible things with sight and sound in their respective movies, which played out more like visceral experiences instead of actual cinema. The safe bet for Sunday night though is on Iñárritu, who should take home his second consecutive Oscar for Best Director. For the biggest award in cinema, my pick for Best Picture goes to The Martian. There was some incredibly tight competition this year, but this sci-fi drama is the one I'll return to with enthusiasm. It seems likely that The Revenant takes top honors at the ceremony, but this is a particularly close race, so your guess is as good as mine. Either way, I hope you're just as excited for the upcoming Oscars telecast as I am, which I'll be live tweeting from @JohnPaula as I do every year. Following the ceremony on Monday, I'll also post a full Oscars recap and highlights video to John's World, so please subscribe to that channel to see the video when it's released. Unfortunately, that does it for tonight's episode, but I'll finally be reviewing the Indiana Jones franchise in our next episode, if you'd like to leave some comment reviews. And if you click this information icon, some related videos will slide out for you to watch. Once again, my name is Jonathan Paula, thank you for watching, and have a good movie night.